Many parents carry their infants in a baby sling or baby backpack these days. For Native Americans looking to uphold traditions that are centuries old, the cradleboard is making a comeback. They're sturdy baby carriers that are not only functional, but artistic as well. The handmade pieces often feature wood carving and painted designs. Let's head to the Fenimore Art Museum in Cooperstown, New York, to shine the spotlight on Mohawk artisan Babe Hemlock. Artisan Babe Hemlock creates colorful works of art that appeal to the child in us. He entertained visitors at the Iroquois Cultural Festival at the Fenimore Art Museum recently. Seated next to his wife Carla, Babe demonstrated how he makes artwork based on protective baby carriers. How important are the traditions of the Mohawk people to you?
Very important. It's what holds us together as people.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Till about the age of 10 or 11, we moved back home, which is Ganawagit, just outside of Montreal.
You specialize in cradleboard making. What is a cradleboard?
It's an old style of baby carrier. Where you see today, you have them in the little pouches or whatever. Ours is more sturdier and safety-wise. When you wrap them in the board, they seem to get a better posture, and they're more content because they're wrapped and snuggled and they're secure.
Are all cradleboards painted so elaborately, or are some of them not painted at all?
Some aren't painted. Mohawk and Iroquois style of boards are all painted on the back with the carvings and paintings and different designs on the back.
What initially compelled you to want to create these cradleboards?
My older sister, one was given to her for her first child that was being born. So from there I looked at it. It was around the time I was in high school. My brother had started one, but he left it there. So I took it and I started carving it, and just no formal teaching, just picking it up and looking and figuring it out as it went. They've been around. They're part of our culture, but it seemed for a time it began to fade out. That just certain families, you would see them in museums and different places and private collections.
American Indian art curator Ava Fognell says the Fenimore Art Museum is proud of its antique cradleboard.
The cradleboard in our collection here at the Fenimore Art Museum is from around the 1870s. It's a Mohawk cradleboard. The back is wood, and it's carved in wood. It would have also had probably a leather or a skin wrapping that would have held the child in place. That is no longer there, but you can still see some of the sinew holding the frame in place. And the cradleboard is also painted, so it still has pigments on it. It's colorful, it's exuberant.
Fognell says Hemlock has painted nature scenes on the back of some of his pieces. But she also appreciates the contemporary iconography he's put on many of his cradleboards.
Such as the hard or the high wire workers, Mohawk workers in New York City, and doing perspective from the high-rise buildings on the back of his cradleboards. So maybe speaking to the reality of the child's father today, as opposed to a nature scene that might have spoken to the father, the mother's world 100 years ago.
Some of your pieces have a contemporary spin on this traditional kind of artwork. Why do you like to put a contemporary spin on it?
Because it makes it new, it makes it fresh. Gives it that old, that you're not always back looking, romanticizing about a different time, that it's still here, that it continues, that we're still moving forward, even though we're holding on to who we are, that we still move forward in the modern times. That's what it represents.
This is a cradleboard by Babe Hemlock. It's a small cradleboard. It's probably it's meant to be a piece of art, a piece of contemporary Iroquois art. On the back, you see a kind of a traditional painting, this of a moose set in the woods. It's both carved and then painted. We turn and we look at the front where the baby would have been. On the bottom is a footboard for the child, would have been for the child. The swatting that would have held the baby in the cradle. And it also has a piece of fur here that could have wrapped around the potential child and served to make the baby warm. But as I said, this is a miniature cradle board, and it's meant as an art piece. But it gives a good idea of how a cradle board was made.
As a Mohawk who creates these beautiful cradle boards, what makes you proud?
My people, my culture, that we're still here today, that we're still following our traditions and just being who we are. That's what makes me proud of.
Mountain Lake PBS is producing these Native American artistry pieces in cooperation with the New York State Historical Association's Fenimore Art Museum in Cooperstown, New York. This project is also a partnership with the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services. Support for Spotlight segments is provided in part by the Glenn and Carol Pearsall Adirondack Foundation, dedicated to improving the quality of life for year-round residents of the Adirondack Park.